this morning, or actually now it's noon. I'm sorry, we got on, it was a little bit earlier before noon, so hi. This is the WISE Business Center Power Hour, and we're welcoming you here. My name is Barb Stone. I'm one of the business coaches, counselors at the center, and so really glad to have you here. Pearl to join us, and Andrea, and Lacey, who will introduce herself. So we're welcoming you here, and we just really want to let you know that the WISE Business Center helps female owners in Central New York develop smart and successful business strategies. We offer free one-on-one coaching. You don't have to go it alone. Free online learning. There's a great resilience training class that's been going on. You can get into that, and free virtual networking opportunities, because we are 100% committed to your success. Your success as a woman business owner. The WISE Women Business Center worked diligently over the past months to develop content that addresses your biggest business concerns. Stay engaged with us on Facebook and follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for access to our extensive knowledge base around important topics like financial literacy, virtual best practices, remote technology, and cyber hygiene, as well as accurate and up-to-date COVID-19 resources for your business, because that's really what is really important. And that's why we're doing the Power Hour, which is going to allow you to be able to tap into some experts in the area here to be able to help address your issues, and also ask questions of the experts here to be able to help you on your journey and your business. And Lacey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Lacey Roy Cicerello. I'm a fellow WISE business coach, as Barb said, and I also own Full Bodied Health, which is a nutrition company based in Syracuse, New York. Oh, Barb, I think you muted yourself on accident.
All right. And also, we'd really like to introduce Andrea Kooritzky, who has been really helping us a lot out here at the WISE Business Center. When we've been going through the CARES Act, the PPP, the EIDL Act, the EIDL grants, Andrea has been an expert for us to be able to help and guide our clients to being able to really resolve a lot of the issues and questions that they need to have answered to really be able to do everything the right way. So Andrea, I'm going to allow yourself to introduce yourself and take it away.
Thank you, Barb and Lacey. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrea Kooritzky. I'm a self-employed accountant. I've been working with small businesses for a little over 15 years. Anywhere from startup businesses to businesses that have been established for over 50 years, in all areas, accounting, payroll, bookkeeping, taxes, working with banks. So I'm hoping today to pass on some tips and tricks of how to keep yourself organized, and why is it important to keep yourself organized, especially in this time of COVID, when you're going to, if you did receive any PPP money, or if you did receive any money for the EIDL loan, if anybody ever comes calling and asks to look at your financial records to prove what you used the loans for, and also for any kind of loan forgiveness. So I know this is everybody's favorite topic.
Yes. So Andrea, thank you for that introduction, and I really would like to allow people to feel engaged to please ask Andrea any questions as we go along. She's going to really be talking about a lot of the financial, the bookkeeping that you really need to be able to do during this time, but this is your time to get your answers, your questions answered by an expert. So please just raise your hand, write something in the chat box through Facebook. If you're watching this, please type something in, and we will be able to ask Andrea to answer the questions.
And I know, I just want to put in there that when it comes to finances, there's a certain amount of vulnerability, and as business owners, we kind of tend to think we should know it all anyway. So if you want to stay in the background or stay anonymous, you can use the chat box and we'll keep you in the background, but make sure your question is answered.
Yep. So Andrea, would you
Yes.
take it away and really start out with the overall agenda and what you'd like to cover?
Sure. First off, understand you're not in the accounting or bookkeeping or tax business. You are in your business because you enjoy what you do and you know what you do. So please don't expect that I'm going to say, hey, this is how it's got to be done, and you know, you're going to be an expert at it. There's going to be a give and take. And when you go searching for a bookkeeper or an accountant, have a talk with them. Go back and forth and say, hey, this is what I'm comfortable with, you know, and they'll come back at you and say, hey, can you at least do this? And I'll meet you halfway, and we'll tackle this together. So I just want to start off with that. You're not an expert at this. You know, most people hate doing the book work. People hate being organized with their receipts. How many of you people are sitting with a receipt in the car that's already rubbed out, or you can't see the detail or the dollar amount? I am an accountant and I do it too. So we'll cover some best practices. So basically I want to cover, if the IRS ever comes a knocking, or New York State ever comes a knocking and wants you to prove some numbers you had on your tax return, what are some things they're going to look at? When you go to a bank for a loan, what are they going to look for? Or in general, so you understand where you are in a business, what kind of records you need. So let's start off with the IRS in New York. You get a lovely letter in the mail. We see that you took X number of dollars as an expense for, say, advertising. That's one of their hot pockets, is advertising. We want proof. Well, what are they going to look for? They're going to look for bank statements. They're going to look for receipts. They're going to look for canceled checks. And they're going to want to see, if it was a flyer, they want a sample of the flyer. If it was you paid for a Facebook ad, they're going to want to see a picture of that Facebook ad. So this should bring to mind, well, how am I going to keep track of all this? What I say to my clients, what's the easiest thing for you to do? If you're a pen and paper person, you know, just make sure that you have all your bank statements. If you did a Facebook ad, print it up. Print up a copy of the Facebook receipt, staple it all together, and put it in a folder. And have a folder for Facebook. Have a folder for National Grid. Just whoever what I call vendors, whoever you pay money to. If you're a pen and paper person, and I know I'm not a pen and paper person. I like to save a little tree here and there. But if you're not a computer person, by all means, print up, make folders every year. Start a new box of folders. So that would give you a copy of the ad. It'll give you a proof of payment, and they'll be able to tie that back out to your bank statement. If you are a computer person, go ahead and download it. Any web page, any email, you can save as a PDF. So same thing, on your computer, on a flash drive, in Dropbox, go ahead and create a folder called 2020. And in that folder, create a folder called Facebook. Download the receipt, download the copy of the Facebook ad, and then download your bank statements into a bank statement folder. Once again, you'll be able to either email your auditor, hey, here's everything, or you can print everything off. So those are the two ways that you'll have your receipt, proof of what you purchased, and your bank statements. Now, a lot of people like to spend cash. Tell me, prove that you spent cash. You can't. So one of my key suggestions, and I know people do it, do not spend cash. Not for business. Personally, go ahead and spend cash. Also, when the IRS says, oh, where'd you get this cash from? How are you going to prove? They're going to go, well, what other cash are you not reporting? So please do not spend money out of your personal bank account. Make sure you have a separate business account. This way, everything ties right out to your financial statements, to your bank statement, to your tax return. Don't say, oh, you know, I went to Target and I bought business supplies. Well, they're going to go, well, what, are you sure it's a business supply or did you buy it for yourself? Because they see you went to Target for other things. So always have a separate business account. If you need money in that business account, transfer it from your personal account. So this way you have proof. So that covers any kind of IRS audit. Like I said, they're going to want your tax return, possibly a profit and loss statement, they're going to want your personal account bank statements, and they're going to want your business account statements, receipts, and proof of purchases. So that would be an invoice from, Hill and Marks is a supply company. So they're going to want that. So once again, if you have a folder set up, you can go, here you go. If you have on your computer, you can email it and go, here you go. Next, we're going to move on to the banks. When you go to a bank for a loan, they're going to want 2 to 3 years of tax returns, 2 to 3 years of profit and loss statements. Profit and loss is also, you're going to hear me call it a P&L. Make sense? Profit and loss, P&L. So a couple of ways you can go about this. Once again, let's go back to how you like to work everything. If you're a pen and paper person, pen and paper? Yes, pen and paper. Like pen and pencil? Pen and paper.
That's fine, either or.
I can't do pencil. I can't do pencil left-handed. I smear it all anyway.
Are you a lefty?
Yep.
You know, it's odd. I'm an accountant and I hate pencils. Hate them. Hate them. Hate them. I don't know why. I don't think they write as smooth. But when you're an accountant, you're supposed to use a pencil. So pen and paper, just make sure that you go through your bank statements on a monthly basis. Have one column for your revenue in your notebook, and then have another column for, say, office supplies or business supplies, cost of goods sold, any kind of categories that you would use to create what's called a profit and loss, or something that ties out to your tax return. And just once a month, go through your bank statement and make sure there's nothing on the bank statement that you didn't write down, or is there something that you wrote down that maybe didn't hit the bank statement? So let's say you went to Target. You bought something for the business for $25. You could have sworn you didn't use your business debit card. You go through your bank statement. Wait, this didn't come through. Oh no, I used my personal card. It's the best practice not to, but does it happen? It happens. So just make a note in your notebook that you use your personal card for it. Just this way, the IRS is going to say, the IRS isn't going to come to you and the bank isn't going to come to you. Nope, you ran it through your personal account. You can't use it as business expense. You can, you just want it to be an outlier. So pen and paper, write everything down as you get the money in, and write everything down when you purchase something, and that at the end of the month, go through your business bank statement and just do a check back and forth and say, yep, this hit my bank account. Yep, I wrote everything down. Next would be if you're a computer person and you love your spreadsheets. I was going to say, everybody raise a hand if they love a spreadsheet. I don't think, oh, Barb, really?
Yes, I do, because from my corporate world, I lived on spreadsheets. So I am a spreadsheet queen.
I see Carolyn also has a thumb up. Most people hate spreadsheets, but let's go with it. So a spreadsheet is really going to be no different than pen and paper, except it's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about smearing it if you're a lefty, or I know I'll think of writing down a 2, and for some reason I'll write down a 3, cross it off, blah, blah, moving on. I love my spreadsheets. So just the same thing, make a column for revenue and a column for different expenses. And if you want to go get fancy schmancy, you can just do a pivot table, and a pivot table will give you your P&L, just saying. So
That's why I like it.
but not many people know how to use a pivot table. So if you're a computer person and you want to use spreadsheets, or if you're a pen and paper person, if you ever have to go to the bank and you have to come up with a profit and loss, you might want to reach out to a bookkeeper or maybe a friend who's a little more techie to help you come up with a P&L. And a P&L is simply, here's my revenue, so here's my gross profit, here are my expenses, and here's my net profit. And that's something that would tie out to your tax return. Next level up is a lot of people like to use QuickBooks. If I can raise my hand, I don't know, how do I raise my hand? I'll raise my hand saying I love QuickBooks. Right, Lacey?
Well, I should say my bookkeeper loves that I use QuickBooks. I'm not so sure about my passion for it.
I do love QuickBooks, and whether you're a computer person or not, if you're using QuickBooks, it's a lot easier for me to clean up a mess. If I'm sitting there with your bank statement, all I have to do is reconcile your bank statement. I can see what's missing and I can see what's there, and it's a lot easier for me to clean up. If I'm doing looking at a spreadsheet, that's the next easiest. Only because I know how to manipulate spreadsheets and I can tie things out and I can sort things. But with QuickBooks, it's no different than using a checkbook register. And I can't tell the ages of people that are here, but it seems like the younger generations are like, what's a checkbook register? What?
I don't even have checks, so.
But it's simple. QuickBooks is as easy as using a checkbook register. And then what it does is it creates the P&L for you. And it's something you just print up and you take it to the bank, or if the IRS says I want the P&L, you can just print it up and it's all automatic for you. There's even a part in QuickBooks where you just do an easy bank reconciliation. You go to banking, click on bank reconciliation, it pulls up all the activity, and you go check, 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 check. You know, my tied out balance is 0, good, moving on. So that's the next thing. And also with QuickBooks, what's nice is, say you did go to Hill & Marks, you gave them your debit card for the bank account and they charged you for invoice number 1185. Well, you can ask them to email you a copy of 1185 and you can actually upload that to that transaction. So instead of having to go through your computer looking for whatever, it's right there. It's tied into that payment. So you can even say, hey, here's my QuickBooks, because sometimes the IRS will ask for, hey, just give me your QuickBooks file. And they can see, they go, I want to look at such and such transaction. They click on it. They see a little paper clip that means something's attached to it. And boom, there's the matching invoice. That's what I like. That's what I like most about QuickBooks. So going to the bank, once again, they're going to want 3 years of your tax return, 2 to 3 years of your tax return, and 2 to 3 years of your profit and loss statement. So one way you can do it is, like I said, is do pen and paper. You can do an Excel file, but you still, with those two, you still have to create a P&L, and with QuickBooks, it's automatic. It's how much work you want to do and then how much work you want to pass on. Now, let's get to, oh, let me back up for a second. Those of you that received a PPP loan and you're trying to now get it forgiven, some of us, if we're going to use some of that money for, say, paying rent or paying utilities, you're going to have to turn in copies of the bills, copies of canceled checks, or proof of payment. They actually suggested that if you had, say, for National Grid, if you're set up for auto pay, they did suggest that you turn off auto pay and pay with a check. This way you have a copy of the canceled check. So when you go to apply, once again, either you're going to have to go to your folder, make copies, send it in with your forgiveness application, or some banks will allow you to apply for forgiveness online. So if you had everything scanned and downloaded, you just attach it to your application. Okay, so moving on. Forget the IRS. Let's just say they never existed. Oh, wouldn't that be interesting?
It'd probably be easier for you too.
You know, you're in business, and are you in business just to do what you're doing, or are you in business to make money? How do you know you're making money? How do you know where you're spending your money? How do you know where your pitfall, your shortcomings are? Am I spending too much on supplies? Am I not charging enough? You're going to want to keep a P&L. You're going to want to keep what's called a balance sheet. So it all just goes back to whatever's easier for you. If you're a pen and paper person, by all means, go ahead and keep your columns, and then every once in a while you can go see a bookkeeper or an accountant, and they can create what's called the financials, which are your balance sheet, your P&L, and your cash flow statement. You can go over it and say, oh, I am making money, but I could be making more because I'm only making $1 an item off of what I'm selling. If you're a spreadsheet person, if you can do pivot tables, what's great is you can compare year to year and see where your pitfalls are once again. Am I making enough money to pay myself? A lot of people, you take a look at, oh, you know, I only have $200 in my business bank account. I'm not making enough money. Well, how much did you already take out of that business bank account to pay yourself during the year? So just by looking at your year-end bank statement does not tell you if you're making money or not. So just keep that in mind. Another reason for not having that much money in your business bank account is, did you make a large purchase? If you're, say you sew things for a living, did you just go out and buy yourself a $5,000 new machine? Well, you're not going to buy a new machine for, say, another 10 years. So yeah, you're still making money, but you reinvested. Are you preparing maybe January, February are your busy months, and you had to buy a whole load of inventory at year end? So just because you spent the money and you don't have money in the business bank account, there's January and February where you're not going to be buying inventory, but you're going to have all that revenue. So just looking at what's sitting in your bank account will not give you an idea where you're spending the money or are you profitable. So you're going to want to use a spreadsheet. You're going to want to use pen and paper. And so you're going to want to come up with your profit and loss. Next, the easiest thing to do is, once again, QuickBooks. And there are other software programs out there. I don't know if any of you have heard of Peachtree.
Yep.
Okay. But how many people actually talk about using Peachtree?
No, not anymore. It's really more.
It's not, it's Peachtree is more of If you're an accountant and you're keeping someone's books, you might use Peachtree. It's very cut and dry. If there's a mistake, you have to do a journal entry. You can't just fix it. So keep in mind, there is other software. There's QuickBooks, there's Peachtree. I know Microsoft has their own accounting software. I just suggest, if you are, well, you are in business if you're on this call, do not use Quicken. Quicken will not give you a profit and loss. Quicken is more for personal, personal financial tracking. It's not QuickBooks. So Quicken is, cross that off your list.
Andrea, can I just ask you a question here? Because one of the things you brought up was about like a big purchase, like you ended up buying a sewing machine or something like that. You ended up saying you spent $5,000 on a sewing machine that you know you're not going to buy another one for 10 years. That's somewhere where you need to really work with your accountant to really kind of for depreciation for tax purposes and stuff. Is that?
Yes, that absolutely. But keep in mind, you as a business owner, if you have somebody else that you trust doing your booking accounting, just keep in mind that best practices, make sure you're just getting every purchase and every sale into whatever system you're using, either writing it down in the spreadsheet or in QuickBooks. And this is where the expertise is. We as accountants and bookkeepers don't expect you to know where to classify everything. We will fix it. So in QuickBooks, and if you do a spreadsheet, I always suggest to my clients, if you don't know how to classify something, there's called Ask My Accountant category. Just, that's the first account or classification I go to is, okay, just so put it in the description. If you spent $5,000 at some vendor I never heard of, I don't know what you bought. So put it in the description, sewing machine model XX258. So at least it's in there. I know what I can have good faith in knowing that I can compile a accurate balance sheet and profit and loss to give to either the bank or to go over with you. Depreciation rules do change over time. It used to be anything that you purchase that would last you longer than a year, like say you buy what I'm looking at, my work table. I think I spent $100 on my work table at a garage sale. Years and years ago, used to be I did have to depreciate that. So that table would last, they say, 5 years. So that $100 table I can take as a tax deduction, $20 a year over 5 years. Well, now they have what's called, and I know I'm giving you a little more information, it's called Section 179 depreciation. I can take that all in 1 year. There's limits based on your profit. There's limits. I believe they changed it. It's now $5,000. Anything under $5,000, you can take right away, but you still have to put it on your balance sheet, and it just would be 100% depreciation.
Hey, Andrea.
Yes.
Quick question, if we could roll it back a quick second.
Sure.
We have a question from Pearl. When doing a P&L, should I track how many hours I work in my business and pay myself an hourly wage as part of business expenses? Or is it okay to skip tracking my hours for now?
That all depends on what the business formation. And when I say business formation, is it a DBA? Is it an LLC? Is it an S Corp or is it a C Corp? As a DBA and an LLC, you cannot pay yourself. You cannot pay yourself on payroll, as far as you can't go to someone like myself or ADP or Paychex and say, I want to run a payroll. I'm going to pay myself $200 and then I have taxes withheld. So if you're a DBA or an LLC, you cannot do that. If you're an S Corp or a C Corp, you can. So what happens is, keep in mind, when you're a DBA or an LLC, that profit you're paying taxes on whether you take the money or not. So the way you do kind of pay yourself is you would transfer money out of your business bank account into your personal bank account, and it's called a draw. Now, I'm from Long Island, so I probably don't say it the way people say it. So it's a DRAW, not a drawer.
I love it, Andrea. I love it. I forgot you were from Long Island. Yeah.
Yep. So that's how.
I was a DBA in an LLC for a while, and that was the nice part of it, was keeping that simple and being able to take a draw when needed. Because when you're first starting out, and Pearl had said earlier in the chat box that she was looking for tips and tricks for daily operations because she runs a home bakery. And so,
hi Pearl, I like you.
In that setting, keeping it simple is super key, especially when it's a small shop, because that means you're doing everything.
Absolutely. I do just keep in mind, when you're, let's forget C Corps, is there anybody here that is an owner, or what would actually be called a shareholder of a C Corp? Not an S Corp, but a C Corp.
I don't count, so we'll just keep going.
Okay, so an S Corp, an LLC, a DBA, all of the profits flow down to the owner's personal tax return. So you're paying taxes on everything. With the S Corp, the LLC, and the C Corp, LLC, DBA, and S Corp, you do have to pay in quarterly to the IRS estimates on what your tax will be. So when you're working for someone, you get a paycheck. Federal and state taxes, Social Security are withheld, turned into the agencies. You do your tax return. Keep in mind, a tax return is basically a reconciliation what happened during the year. So if your tax liability was $5,000, you had $6,500 withheld from your paycheck, you'll get a refund of $1,500, and vice versa. If your tax was $5,000 and you only had $3,000 withheld, you have to pay in $2,000. Once you get to the point where you owe more than $1,000 in federal taxes when you do your tax return, they start hitting you with penalties. That's why you should always do what's called a paycheck checkup. If you go to do your taxes and you wind up owing a lot, as you know, if you're an employee, take a look. You should change your withholdings. Now, when you're a small business, when you're an LLC or DBA, there are no withholdings. You have to pay in what normally would have been held. If you earn $5,000 as a W-2 employee, your tax would be the same as if your net profit was $5,000. So you have to have those withholdings. There is, however, an additional tax on LLC DBAs. It's called self-employment tax, which is when you work, you have Social Security withheld at a rate of 7.65%. Your employer has to match that 7.65%, but when you are your own employer, you pay both halves. So 15.3. So that's an additional tax. You have to pay that in as well. So definitely on a quarterly basis, you're going to want to talk to someone to see, hey, where am I standing? I need to pay in something.
Right, because I was just going to ask you, how frequently, should somebody check in with their accountant to see where they're at? So that's great, quarterly. Okay.
Keep in mind, so the quarterly, it's a funky quarterly. Your first quarterly payment is due April 15th. Obviously, this year was a little bit different. They moved it to July, but your first quarter payment's April 15th. Then it's June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th of the following year. So you definitely want to check in a couple weeks beforehand, at least because this way, if there's any kind of cleaning up or any kind of analysis, your accountant can go over it.
That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Andrea.
Sure. Some people, I do have clients that say, I don't want to pay in during the year. I'm more than willing to, because I can make more money off of the money I have sitting in the bank account than is the penalty at year end. But just keep in mind, if you do not pay in enough, you will have a penalty.
What is the penalty, Andrea?
It's a certain percentage. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Right.
I mean, I've seen anything from $50. The biggest one I'd say was a couple of thousand, but they also made about their tax liability was a good $200,000.
Okay. All right. So it's on. Okay.
So is anybody's head spinning yet? Did I give you too much?
No.
I see a question. Do sole proprietors need to pay quarterly? Yes. So DBAs and LLCs need to pay in on a quarterly basis.
I would love to give our brain a little bit of a rest with the laws and percentages and the math. I'm not a math person, as both my accountant and bookkeeper will gladly tell you.
That's why we have computers.
Right, exactly. QuickBooks. Can we just go over a couple like best practices from your side of the table? How do we interview someone to work with them, either as an accountant or the bookkeeper? And can you just give us a quick definition? I get a lot of questions about what's the difference between the two.
A bookkeeper is somebody who might have basic knowledge of what would be considered a balance sheet item or a profit and loss item. They're not too much up on tax code. They're basically you with a little bit more knowledge. They can go into QuickBooks, get you all organized. That's a bookkeeper. An accountant is more somebody that says, okay, this is a balance sheet item. We can depreciate it. It's somebody that can formally create a balance sheet, P&L, cash flow. They can analyze it. They might have, not all accountants have tax knowledge. I kind of have both. I always wanted to be a small business accountant, but I kind of got pushed into the tax field. So I feel fortunate I have both. But an accountant is more somebody who would go over your financials, give you a good cleanup, and get you ready for tax season. Just because you have a bookkeeper that does your books doesn't mean you can just go onto TurboTax yourself and do your own tax return. You definitely would want an accountant to take a look to make sure you have everything classified correctly.
Awesome. So when we sit down with a potential accountant, whether we're new in business and wanting to start off right, or if we're established and for whatever reason we need a new one, what are some questions that you want to be asked as a small business accountant?
And that's a great question. I do feel that people should reach out to an accountant and just say, hey, can I have some of your time? I'm looking for somebody new, or I'm starting a business. If they don't have a half an hour to talk to you, don't, because then they're not going to have time for you down the road. So just be prepared for about a half an hour conversation. If it's more than that, you definitely want to set up another appointment and just be prepared to say, hey, I am going to go with you, because more than a half an hour, within a half an hour, you should get a good feel of, this is the person I want to trust my financials with, or I don't just get that warm, fuzzy feeling. When I meet with people, I want to know, what is your level? Are you a pen and paper person? Are you a spreadsheet person? Or is it something you want to go into QuickBooks? Because if you're just a spreadsheet person, I know how much time I'm going to have to dedicate to you. If you're a QuickBooks person, I know I'm going to have to do less. Understand there's going to be a give and take. If you're a pen and paper person, you just need to make sure you go through your bank statement and make sure everything ties out. We need to talk about timeliness. If it's now the end of January and tax season's kicked off and you talk to an accountant and say, hey, you know, I haven't done any of my accounting for 2020 yet, you're not going to get a good response. So if you're going to talk to someone, please talk to them ahead of time. It's not fair to put on them what your lack of just lack to get things done. Do you have to be perfect? No, but at least I would hope as an accountant, you know, my clients would put at least some kind of effort into it. Like I said, if you don't know how to classify something, I don't expect you to. But I do expect you to put the effort into at least logging what you buy and what you take in.
Andrea, would it be good at that point in time to start like laying out some expectations of both sides and just seeing?
Absolutely. I mean, and also let me, I'm putting my own preference on this. There are some accountants that are willing to, you know, at the end of January, oh, you want me to do your accounting now? Sure. It's $100 an hour. You know, that is reasonable. Absolutely reasonable if you're going to hit them up in January to do your books for a whole year. But I'm going to say no, because I don't, as a small business, you can't afford that. I'm sorry, I kind of went off topic. But expectations are, if you call your accountant and you have a question, you fully can expect that within 24 to 48 hours, they get back to you. You as a client, if you ask me a question and I get back to you and we still have to keep going, my expectation is I get the same courtesy, 24 to 48 hours, you get back to me. If you give me your accounting records and I ask you, hey, I need to know, there was a $2,500 purchase, what was it? And if you don't get back to me for a month and a half, I'm not going to want to keep you on as a client. Only because if I'm going to put my time into you, this is your business. This isn't my business. You need that tax return done. And I hate to sound nasty about that, but just understand this is your business. Your accountant, I would want to help you, but if you're not going to invest in your own business, why should we?
I think that speaks to a really good point. Barb, Andrea, and I were able to speak on the phone a little bit yesterday, and this was brought up as a talking point. And one of the questions for possibly interviewing sounds like might be something, who do you prefer to work with as an accountant? Because for you prefer that small business, from what I understand you said yesterday, someone who's in it and working and it's their baby, right? Versus
100%, because I want to help those that help themselves.
Versus other people who buy a business as an investment, sit back, are very hands-off, which is fine and great. It's a whole different type of portfolio, but not every accountant has the same target. Right,
because there's some accountants out there that, and there's nothing wrong with it. We're all in the business to make money. I absolutely 100% love what I do. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I would still do what I do. I would absolutely, because I do love what I do. But I'm not going to go and take on a client where I'm going to bill you for 30 hours because you're not involved. You don't want to do anything. I don't want to, it's not ripping someone off, but there's plenty of accountants out there that say, okay, I'll do your books. It's $100 an hour. And I'm making mad money because you just don't want to get involved.
Well, it goes back to developing the relationship, and is it a good fit, and knowing that you're going to be able to have the dialogue and working with clients, it's really in the dialogue, you're going to find the clarity. And it's like, is it a good fit? So that you have this relationship that is going to be somebody that's going to be able to support you and guide you through this process.
And if you're okay with, you know, and I guess when I said I'm putting my own onus on this is, but if you're really hate doing this, and I've had, when I was first started doing this, I remember having a new client, hadn't done his books. It was like July or something like that. And he came over I was working out of my house, and he came over to my house with these 2 huge Tupperware bins, all full of receipts. He had ADP at the time, so he had payroll reports all over the place, and his laundry. So he did laundry at my place while we're going through all his receipts. I mean, there are definitely, if you hate it, there are definitely accountants out there that will take your bins of receipts for a whole year and sit down and do your accounting. And if that's where you want to invest your money, you know, there are definitely, and there will be accountants out there that will help you with that.
But you know, Andrea, I'm going to go back to when you first started talking. You really ended up saying, you were speaking to everyone that was here, that, you know, everybody here that's in business, and I call it their zone of genius, is doing their business and what they're doing in their business. And doing the accounting is not necessarily what their zone of genius is. And it's like, that's where they really need to be able to develop that's why, to me, the relationship that I have with an accountant is so important, to be able to have them there to support me, because I don't want to be able to know everything. I want to be able to do what I like to do in my business.
But at the same respect, though, is you do need to know how your business is doing.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
if you, my thing is, don't wait until it's last minute or too late, because by the time the information's compiled, you're already talking, it could be a year and a half after whatever happened. So how you love your business, but you also, my feeling is you kind of want to be a little bit involved in the financials, only because, like I said, what's in your bank account is not your profit.
Right.
I agree, Barb. I have a bookkeeper and an accountant because it's not my strong suit. I hate it. I start sweating every time I'm on the phone with either one of them. But it's the relationship I have with both George and Leanne to be able to say once a month, hey, George, my accountant, how we doing, where we're at, this is my next idea, how do we make it work, can we make it work? And then go to my bookkeeper every other week and saying, where are we at, what are you doing, whatever, and being there for her questions. And I'm obviously asking her tons of questions all the time. And I don't get paid by QuickBooks, but I love the feature where you can just be like, flag it for the accountant. Can I tell you how many times I use that? 'Cause I'm like, I'm going to log this stuff, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing and why I have you guys.
Yeah, you've got the guidance. You got the guidance.
Yes.
Of,
so that I can stay hands-on without really messing it up. And what takes me 2 hours takes them 10 minutes.
And I just gotta say, it's not very hard, especially with QuickBooks or even a piece of paper. That's why I said, whatever you're comfortable doing and whatever you're going to do on a regular basis, if you sit down for even a half an hour a week, write down in your notebook or in a spreadsheet or in QuickBooks, what did I sell? What did I buy? It's not hard to turn it over to your accountant, and your accountant can clean it up, or your bookkeeper can clean it up. So Pearl is a home baker. I can just see certain things where you might want to go over with the accountant, and your accountant can tell you to track certain things. When you have a business where there's spoilage, or if you I'm thinking of a bakery, maybe not so much a home baker, because a home baker, I think they bake on demand. But my parents owned a bakery when I was younger, and I can't tell you how much in product they threw out. That's something you work with your bookkeeper and your accountant to, how do I figure it out? What is my spoilage? How much product am I throwing out? How often is one of my employees leaving butter out so it's gone bad? Or how many times are they dropping things, I have to throw it out? That all goes down to your pocket. So that $25 worth of butter that got left out, that's money that's not only did you have to spend $25 on the butter, you didn't even make money on it. That's out of your pocket. So that's, I think, definitely a business that should have somebody that they can talk to, or at least get them in the right way. So maybe you just have to track certain things. But that's just an example. I just think any business, even though it's not your thing, but think of what's going in your pocket. We all want more. And we're all not going to win the lottery where we can just do what we love for free. I've been trying for years and it hasn't happened.
But the thing about it is, tap into the experts that will help guide you to do the right things so that you'd be able to know what you need to do. And
just keep in mind, most accountants and bookkeepers are not like lawyers. We're not going to charge you. Well, I guess I should talk about myself personally. Unless you go to a huge CPA firm, most accountants are not going to charge you for a quick phone call. And just like a lawyer, you're better off fixing the problem before the problem happens than having to go to somebody and, oh, I got a letter from the IRS from 2 years ago. They're asking for information. I don't have it. So,
well, Andrea, I would love to start wrapping up, because I know we only have a few minutes left. And I just wanted to put it out there for people on Facebook and here in Zoom that if you have a business, whether it's an idea or well-established, no matter what stage you're in, we're here for you. And the WISE business counselors are free to you guys, thanks to generous donations and grants and the hard work of admin at WISE. So Carolyn will put the link in if one-on-one business counseling and coaching is something that you're interested in, and you can learn more about those details. Andrea, I would love for you to let people know how to find you if you're taking new clients.
And I know I'm different than a lot of other accountants in this respect. Even if you're not looking for a new accountant, I make myself available, especially for quick questions. I don't know if you want to post my telephone. I'm a huge texter. So if anybody wants to shoot me a text to say, hey, you got 5 minutes, I have a couple of questions. I'm just available. I want people to succeed, and I want their lives to be easier. And I just don't want people, we're small businesses where we don't have unlimited cash. So I want you to get everything set up before it starts costing you too much money to fix the problem.
Where would they text you?
Go ahead.
Andrea, I'm going to put your number in the chat box, if that's okay.
Yep, if you want to do that. And also my email address is Andrea@mycnyaccounting.com.
Okay.
And I'm serious when I say questions, quick questions, please reach out.
First of all, Andrea, I'm going to say this is just absolutely, as always, a great experience to be able to learn more from you. I always have. And I hope that you will come back again as we continue going. Okay, so I'm typing this in. Andrea at CNY.
My CNY, I think you got it.
Accounting services?
You got it. My
It's already
family.
posted.
Yep.
Oh, it's been put it in there, okay. All right.
Yep. Carolyn's on it.
Marilyn is on it. Okay, cool. All right. But you know what? I just, every single time I talk to you, and for those of you who have PPP loans or an EIDL loan, you know, Andrea's been the person to go to on this, and she's always been very, very helpful. So again, as she ended up stating that she would just have a phone call with you just to kind of help you, she is there. That's the kind of person you want to have in your back pocket. It's that relationship that's going to be there to help and support you. As Lacey stated before, you don't have to do this alone. You can contact the WISE Center, and you can work with one of us to be able to help guide you in your business.
Awesome. I think we're all set. Thank you again, everyone, for joining, and great questions. We will see you next Wednesday.
Cool.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.